Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jonathan.
It's been a while since we've spoken on Zoom in this format.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks because we had some weeks off because we had a two-parter of a podcast with Lee Matthews to put up.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to that conversation, everybody. It was an enjoyable conversation for us, and it was quite cool. Like, we haven't spent that much time with the Lee Matthews boys. I think we've met them once. Is that correct?
Essentially, yeah.
Twice in Auckland as well, right? Mardi Gras,
and then once in Queenstown with Graham, and then in Auckland with both of them. Yeah, but we haven't spent we've hung out together, for a total of, let's call it 7 hours.
and all those hours are probably pretty drunken time. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed. I fucking really love those guys.
They're lovely people, and if you don't follow them on social media, you should start now. It's Lee Matthews with a V where the A is.
Yeah, fantastic.
But we have a new podcast to record, Jonathan. We have a new conversation to have, and we have a bunch of
Questions that need answering.
I don't think we actually do. We're just getting back into the swing of recording. I wanted to ask you how your week's been, because we have had some chats and messages exchanged, independent of obviously a podcast. But I wanted to see if you're comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, how's your week in London been?
My week in London has been a bit of a struggle this week. I think I'm feeling at the moment one of the ways I described myself to you yesterday, when we had a good conversation in the afternoon, was that I feel dumb. And I guess I'll elaborate on that, because I don't actually think I'm dumb. What I'm feeling at the moment is I'm in my head too much. So I'm overthinking a lot of things. And that's causing me to not be present in the things that I do. And then that's causing me to make small mistakes, which is then making me feel like I don't know how to do anything, therefore making me feel like I'm dumb. And I think that's been building as I haven't been taking enough care and taking enough time for myself. And I'm also attempting to do too many things at once.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, I went on a little date with myself. I went up to Epping Forest and walked around. Didn't listen to any music, didn't listen to any podcasts while I walked. I just walked and found various places to sit down and read a book. And that was very relaxing. That was a beautiful time with myself. I really enjoyed that. And I need to do that every week or every day if I can. And of course, I can't just go to a forest every day. So really, I need to get back on track with finding those moments of stillness where I can be by myself and contemplate things and enjoy some time without a chatted mind. And I don't think I've been prioritizing those kind of moments enough. I've kind of been going or thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to get to the next step, I've got to get this, I've got to do that, oh, what about this, what about that? And that has just caused me to kind of just be distracted, because I'm never doing I'm never thinking about what I'm doing right now. Whether that's having a conversation and thinking about the next conversation I'm going to have, or whether that's at work, I'm thinking about music stuff, or whether it's doing music stuff and I'm thinking about work stuff. Like, I'm finding it kind of difficult to simplify, which has been causing me anguish.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think, if I can just interject, I think some of it is because we've been very good at that multitasking mind, having a job, having music, having our career that we do as well. So, just today I was responding to an email as I was packing a delivery for the coffee company I work for.
Mm.
And I was like, I wish I could just do one of these things at once, but I'm kind of on call for both, particularly on this day. And I think we've gotten really good at doing that juggling act, but now that we've got maybe a little bit more space and a bit more stillness, where our brain is still a bit wired to do that.
Yeah. And it's also recognizing, like, we don't have to struggle. Like, things don't have to be hard. I think you and I are pretty good at making simple tasks sometimes harder than they seem, because we're almost geared to be like, oh, this is going to be a challenge. Whether it's like, fuck, I always just go back to the example of, like, being at home when we both lived at home and working in the studio, and our washing would finish, and we're like, we've got to hang out the washing. Like, fuck, no, let's just keep working because I don't want to, like, lose this vibe. Like, it's not a big deal, but it's like we play it into a bigger deal.
Yeah, because
that make sense?
We don't want the time taken away from us, because we've never had the luxury of just being, oh, I'm going to turn up to the studio. I try and treat my studio's days like this now, but, turn up, run in business hours, and if you're going to come back, stay a little bit longer, and if you get on a vibe, come back later at night and do it. But, finish the day and say, I've done enough, this is really good, set some goals, or don't, just play.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to, because I still get that moment where I go, it gets to Thursday and I'm like, I might not be here till Tuesday.
Yeah.
I really want to try and get in on the weekend. Like, oh, I wish I could just come in tomorrow and, like, just find a bit more flow. And we've been so used to that, even as we found a little bit more flow, we don't work full time on music. We have part-time jobs, and part-time jobs that, don't require a whole lot of, extra thinking and stuff like that. And we don't take much of that job home at all, but we're still present, and we still clock up, between 20 and 30 hours a week, sometimes more.
And I think it's important to recognize, like, we know a lot of people are in this situation. It's not like we think we're special, that because we work as well as producing music. But I guess part of the anguish that I've experienced over the last couple of weeks has also been attached to how I've personally felt and failings that I've felt within myself, and that kind of being linked to how I'm creative or how functional I am. Like, I don't think I'm a particularly depressed person, but I can be prone to bouts of sadness. And I think a lot of that is caused by being in my mind too much.
Yeah,
and
for sure. Sorry, keep going.
And I've also kind of recognized that sometimes I don't say when things bother me. And I'm a fairly chilled out person, I think. But sometimes I don't recognize when things do bother me. And I think I've done that quite a lot this year because I've felt like I needed to not be bothered by them. And I think it's very difficult because you don't... In my mind, I go, this bothers me slightly, but it's not bothering me enough to be like a problem. So I'm just not going to bring it up.
Yeah, but you get enough of those in a pile and it becomes a fucking problem.
Yeah,
and you don't know how to
exactly.
solve it because it's that those problems are spread out over so many objects.
Exactly. Like I had a conversation with Mum this morning because she called me.
She said she loved talking to you.
And I'm glad she likes talking to me.
No, she said she had a motherly chat with you and she said she really enjoyed it.
She said, like, are you particularly happy? We can kind of tell that it sometimes feels like you're not telling us something. And I said, like...
Yeah, mum, sorry to interject.
No, yeah, go on.
Mum said to me, is Jonathan okay? Is he using anything? And I was like, if he's using anything, it's he's drinking more than he would, and he's started exercising more. Don't worry, he hasn't got a drug habit of sorts. And she's like, I don't know, he just sometimes seems quite down. And I was like, the young boy wants to swim in the bloody ocean.
She said, like, are you using are you using marijuana? And I was like, no. She was like, yeah, but you know people that use marijuana, right? And you know, like you don't feel like you need to use it, do you? I'm like, no, I don't really love smoking weed. Like I probably smoked a handful of times while I've been here. I'm like, no.
I'm trying to normalize it in the house a little bit.
Those brownies,
having the edibles in the house, yeah, and just like telling them like, I'm gonna eat the edible, and then like nothing happens, like nothing kind of changes.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, but like at the same time, they don't really care. Mum particularly has some interesting conservative views that are like, it's like she's reading a script from a Brady Bunch movie at times.
Yeah.
Were there women there? And were they supervised? And you're like, what? What are you talking about? Were there children? Were there people there using marijuana? And she doesn't hold those, like, you know, so much love to our mum. She doesn't really hold these views. It's not like she's sitting there picket lining the abortion clinic at all.
No.
No, the last person to do that. But sometimes she'll say something and I'll be like, whoa, this is like, you haven't updated that piece of software since 1971.
Yeah. But it was nice to explain. It was nice to explain to her, like, no,
420 plays it more.
I'm not doing that. I'm just, you know, sometimes I feel sad and sometimes I feel I can be pretty harsh with myself. And I think that's, I 100% recognize that there is no, you can take off your jumper, buddy. I've seen you struggling with that for a while. Just take it off.
I've like removed my arms, but I can't do that.
Jeff's been kind of wearing his jumper as like a scarf for the last 4 minutes of this quite somber, serious conversation.
I don't want to take the headphones off and loose.
He can't take the headphones off because he wants to listen. Take it off. Come on. Free yourself
It's so
of the
hot.
burden.
I don't know. I wear a jumper to the studio all the time, and it just gets hot.
It's making me feel like I need to take off my jumper, but I'm not wearing anything under my jumper, and I don't think having a conversation with you without a shirt on is particularly fitting.
We haven't started the OnlyFans, and we don't have any top tier Patreon subscribers, so it's not worth taking your clothes off yet, Jonathan.
I only do it for money. Yeah, so I recognize that there is no kind of, apart from COVID, and of course, like being away from family, being away from you, being away from shows and like some aspects of normality, I recognize that all those things bother me. But there's no, you know, it's not like work is being difficult or being unfair or you're being unfair or Ekko and Sidetrack's being unfair. Like, I recognize that this, how I feel is at 100% in my own brain because I am speaking to myself in a harsh way and kind of getting stuck there. And I think a lot of people are feeling like that at the moment. I'm speaking to one friend about that, being stuck in his own head and kind of feels like he's in a rut. I've spoken to other friends over here that have felt similar, have felt disenfranchised, have just felt a bit down, uncharacteristically. And I think a large part of it is because, well, for me, I think that's because I'm not doing the reflective work and the work of kind of, I'm not working on myself enough. I work on myself quite a bit. I meditate 3 times a week. I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. If I don't go to the gym, I'll do a yoga. So I'm not, and I eat fairly healthy, drink a lot of water. I'm doing okay. It's not at all like I'm not doing the work, but really to fundamentally change your brain and to get out of these habits that have formed over years and years of negative self-talk or being around poisonous people or having outside influences change the way you think. Unraveling 31 years of I don't want to call it trauma because I don't think it's particularly as extreme as trauma, but it's like things that have bothered you. Unraveling, I think a lot of that is unraveling now in a time where everything's kind of settled a bit and some of that shit is coming up. And I think it's really a moment where I have to not just meditate for 10 minutes a day. I need to meditate for an hour a day. I need to fucking get back into my morning pages. I need to do my journal. I don't keep it. I don't do a journal once a week when I feel like it. I stick to that thing every single day. Like I push harder and I focus harder back onto myself. Because before, maybe I thought like, if I could just go for a run, I'll feel better. But really, some of this slime and some of this negativity that I've got caked onto my insides has been there for a while. And to get that stuff off, you can't just scrape it with a fucking scour and some hot water. You've got to soak it. And I think I am kind of realizing that and finding that out and accepting that and know that I need to refocus on doing stuff for myself. And just over the last 24 hours, I made a giant list of things that bother me or things that I want to deal with. And I just ticked some of the stuff off. I just did it. I bought a bike lock for my bike. I bought some lights for my bike. I hung some pictures on the wall. I rearranged something. I threw out
little things.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Those little things.
Just little things.
They're the things that go through your mind when you're lying in bed and you look out onto your room and you're like, I don't know why that fucking receipt is sitting there, but I'll deal with it in the morning.
And also, man, like sometimes these things that you put off, you're just like, oh wow, I just achieved 3 things. That's put me in a way better mood rather than like I've got to get down to start achieving music or start achieving this other thing. There's no point, if you got a messy something, you're not going to be as focused on the other.
Because they're the things that when you sit down and write music, like the other day, I had a really good day on Friday with writing music, and I sent you a demo at the end of the day.
I liked it.
Halfway through that, I was just kind of looking around my room and just going, I hate that corner. I fucking hate that corner. I need to do this. I need to do this. And suddenly I'm distracted by all these things. That's like, I need to do. That sentence is so prevalent in my life. Oh, I need to do that. I need to do that. And often they can just be, like you said, they're small things that you can, it doesn't have to be done. The world's not going to end if it doesn't happen. But they fill up a certain amount of bandwidth in your head. That when you just do them, it sounds like such a trivial thing. And it is quite a trivial thing. But like, it's like to make your bed. You make your bed every morning. You're going to feel way better about your life. And if you just start expanding that out, because there's a big fucking difference between making your bed every morning and writing a hit song. And you want to do both those things. But the road to get to the hit song takes a lot more time and is a lot harder. But the making of your bed influences your ability to write that hit song.
Because it influences your ability to do small tasks, finish them, and do them well. And writing a hit song is just doing 100 small tasks well and finishing them. And plus, we've got bigger things, way bigger things we want to do than get stuck in the minutiae of bullshit. And if you can, some people can ignore the minutiae. Yeah. You know, famously, certain people had like, oh, he's had horribly messy place, but he's this brilliant person and that kind of thing. I don't think we're at the level of brilliance where we can let that stuff not bother us.
Yeah.
So therefore, we're going to become better people by dealing with some of those things. And they're not all trivial things either. Sometimes there are big to-dos or big I need tos that you can't just either deal with easily or let go of. They're like, this is actually something is going to require time, effort, my creativity. It is meant to take up bandwidth. It's not something I can just like get rid of.
Yeah.
But then you dedicate time to it, you do it, and you go, wow, I feel better. Case in point, dealing with taxes, for example. It's something so easy to procrastinate, but once you deal with it, you can be like, okay, that has been dealt with. I no longer have this little bug on my shoulder being like, taxes, you should look at your taxes. Wow, you spent a whole day at the studio and you didn't really write anything good. That time might have been able to be spent better on your taxes.
It's like getting away from that judging mind as well. Like if you minimize that stuff, like if you have a bunch of stuff built up that you need to do, then the judging mind has a lot of ammunition. And when you make a little mistake or when you do something bad, I know my brain jumps on me. My brain jumps and literally starts whispering in my ear like, yeah, you fucked that up just like you haven't hung that picture, or just like you didn't do this, did you? You haven't done that, have you?
And it
starts whispering to me
a little
like
bit of a
fucking
whisper.
demon. And then I go, yeah, that's right, I am a bit of a piece of shit. And then start believing that story and that narrative. And then when someone says to you out of the blue, hey man, you forgot to send this email, or when you did this, then suddenly that voice is manifested in a physical form in front of you and you go fucking ballistic, or you react to them as if they're the devil. But they're not. The devil or a demon. I don't actually believe there's a demon in my head. I'm just using that because that's a separate...
It's a good metaphor. It's a good analogy. It's a good analogy.
And kind of fun metaphor to use.
There's a demon!
Then you're kind of battling with the demon or battling with yourself, not that other person. It's always just you. And yeah, I happen to have quite a aggressive demon,
Case of demons
in my head that currently is has a fucking louder voice than the angel part of my higher self, if you will. And I think I'm trying to work on reminding myself that I am a good person and I am not faulty.
You are the furthest thing from faulty, Jonathan. In fact, any of the things that you might be able to identify as faulty are actually all the little cracks and chips that make you unique. Unique enough to make amazing music, unique enough to make people laugh, unique enough to have all these insights that you're having. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think you have to just remind yourself of that every single day. And everyone needs to.
Absolutely.
I remember saying when we were in lockdown that I was telling myself when I was by myself for most of the time, I was telling myself I loved myself a lot. And telling myself that in the mirror. And hugging myself and doing things like that. Masturbating in front of the mirror. Podcast number 6, if anyone wants to go back and listen or something like that. I don't know. But like all those practices stopped when I kind of interacted with people again. Mostly because I didn't have a mirror. No, but mostly just because like you go back and you think like, oh, okay, I'm all good now. I don't need to. I'm around people. I don't need to keep track of that. I'm all good. But really, they're like the fundamental practices that everyone should be doing all the time, no matter how content or how happy or however positive you feel, because you don't know when that demon is going to come back and point out a fault, and you need that strong resolve. It's like confidence and self-love is so important, because if you're feeling shaky enough that if someone else goes, you're a piece of shit, and you say, yeah, I kind of am a piece of shit, you're right, random person, then there's a real self-love issue there.
And a real worth issue, because it's very, very rarely is it as black and white as you're a piece of shit. It's, oh, that wasn't very good, or, oh, really, you think that, or, oh, we're not going to invite you to this, or that was a bit silly, or even as simple as, oh, no, you didn't get that job that you thought you were perfect for, or you didn't get that date, or you didn't get just get the thing. Something didn't work out. And then you can go, wow, why didn't it work out? And if you have a strong self-reflection process and some good processes, you can, count it back and probably be quite, get past it and be like, oh, I didn't do X, Y, Z, or I just didn't do X, or I don't think that was meant to work out.
Yeah.
That's fine. On to the next one. This is not a failure that's going to break me. This is just a minor setback. And if you've got a bad self-talk anyway, and then you're not very stable or secure in your being, so that you're basically saying that I'm going to climb as high as I can on the thinnest object, and then as soon as someone starts rocking it, you're going to fall, rather than building something that's solid as fuck, that when someone starts rocking it, be like, that's okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, which is why I found listening to the Matthew McConaughey podcast on Tim Ferriss yesterday and this morning very interesting.
Very rarely, I will just say this before you start this, do you send me a podcast? I listen to more podcasts than you do because of the nature of my work. And it used to be that you would listen to more podcasts than I would, because when you worked in the tower filming.
I was working in Sauron's tower for a couple of years in Mordor as a chef.
That's how you got the demon.
I was cooking for about 1,000 orcs a day. It was a bit of a shit job. I was the only human. I was teased horrendously.
It paid well. That's what paid for the studio.
I got paid in gemstones and leftover lembas bread.
And a weird ring. That is, where is that?
I got given a
should
magical
find that.
ring. It was one of the 9. I wear it sometimes, and I complain about having a demon in my head. I don't think there's any correlation. No.
No, when you worked
When I
in
was a cameraman,
in the tower filming,
I would listen to
your cameraman in the
podcasts.
tower. A lot of podcasts, read a lot of photocopied books, and we have talked a bit about that. I still think some of the finest stories from that time haven't come out, but they will with time and with more comfort. So I'm listening to a lot of podcasts. So I'll often send you, hey man, check this out. Hey man, this is 3 hours, but it's got some really great points. And sometimes I think you must be like, fuck, man, that's like kind of like, oh man, like, okay, yeah, I can see the thing, but I don't have the time or something. So when I woke up to the message that you had really got a lot out of the Naval Ravikant podcast on with Tim Ferriss, which is the episode before this, and then you'd sent me a new podcast that you'd already listened to, I was like, oh, this is exciting. And then when you said the words, this is like it was just made for me right now.
Yeah.
That I was like, that's perfect. That's how sometimes I feel about certain podcasts. I'm like, are you serious? Like, even to the point where I've listened to half of the podcast, stopped it, gone and done something else, listened to a few other podcasts, and then I've joined back in with that podcast. They've started talking about something that is relative to my situation, and I have thought, if I had kept listening, would they have talked about the same thing?
Absolutely.
And that's a wild concept. But the Matthew McConaughey podcast, you sent it to me. I just want to say big ups to yourself
Thank
for
you.
sending it.
I've sent it to someone else as well, and I would advise anyone. I would advise anyone just to go listen to both those podcasts, the Naval Ravikant one, and the Matthew McConaughey one. The Matthew McConaughey one's probably more suited to people. Obviously, people know who he is. But I was like, it was like he was talking to me, and how he's kept a journal for 35 years, and he wrote goals for himself when he was like 17 or 18, and just some of the first thing that really struck me was in his household. I'm not going to ruin or talk about the podcast too much because everyone should go listen to it. In his household, the words "I can't" and "I hate," and can't were like forbidden words to a degree. And he uses this example of like he's using the lawnmower and it's not turning on, so he goes and tells his dad like, I can't get the lawnmower to work. And his dad looks at him, you what? And he's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. His dad gets up, he goes and looks at it, looks around, finds a little valve that's not on, and then says, what you were having trouble, but you have asked for help, and now you've done the thing that you were having trouble with. So like, always use that language. You're having trouble, and just that alone instantly got me thinking. Like, I always fucking say I can't do this, and a lot of the stuff I end up fucking doing. If I made a list of all the things that I said I can't do or I couldn't do, and I made a list of all the things I have done, there would be so many things that I've done. And I sent you a message yesterday.
Yeah.
I said, sometimes I feel, why am I surprised at success and expect failure when I've succeeded in so many things?
That's something worth getting tattooed on the fucking...
Under till death do us part. And that's like a feeling that has been brewing in like the last couple of months. Like, why the fuck should I be? Why should I be surprised that everyone likes the Tarantula remix? Well, not surprised, but like, why should I be sometimes I feel like I get through life as a fluke rather than being a good person or doing hard work or doing this other stuff. And I think I need to, again, it's about reflection. Reminding yourself of all the things that happened because you did this stuff. So that's what McConaughey does. He writes a journal. So every time he comes up against a problem or is feeling down or is feeling like it in a depressed way, he can go back and be like, oh no, like here's some evidence that I have that proves that I'm not this thing that I feel right now, or that I have achieved this thing so I can like move on. And I think doing much more intense reflective work in creating a cache of memories or evidence that proves otherwise will kind of help me quieten the demon, sorry, not the devil.
As well, I think the his point about writing all the time, not just when you're down, like not ignoring a journaling or a self-reflective practice when things are good. Like, oh, I don't need it. I'm cool. It's all good.
Me telling myself I love myself and hugging myself in lockdown. But then getting out of lockdown and starting to live with other people and being like, oh, cool. Like, I don't need to do that anymore. But it's obviously it's obvious that I do need to do that.
The language thing as well, Jonathan, is so important. That's a lesson I was really shown this year by someone pretty special, and it was something that I hadn't thought about. It's something as someone who likes to talk and who likes the language, the English language, and likes to make analogies and metaphors and make people laugh with words and stuff. Language was something I disregarded as a hurtful thing to myself.
Yeah.
But really looking at the way I speak to myself and some of the words I use, I'm not good at playing the guitar. Should be, I'm working on playing the guitar. I'm getting better at playing the guitar. I'd like to practice more of playing the guitar, rather than instantly like identifying as someone who is not good at X. That's like putting your hand up and saying, I am crap at, and because like I'm not good at something is an instant put down. You're instantly below the line, rather than saying I am working, which means you're in movement. That's a verb. You're in motion of working on the thing.
It's like it's instant judgment, isn't it? It's if that wasn't coming from you and it was coming from outside, an outside source. Say if it was coming from me and I said, "You're shit at the guitar." Oh no, you're not good at the guitar, or you're practicing a lot at the guitar. Hey, like even think about that. Like the negative,
it hits me completely differently.
And in your own. Sorry, you go.
Sorry? No, I was going to say the negative terminology as well. Like the you are not versus I am, like saying what I am, and like how I'm like I am not a good swimmer. Can be I'm learning how to swim. I'm improving my swimming. It's like they're at the same level as like novice. You're not saying you're a pro. You're not saying anything. But the way it's like you're saying what you're not versus what you are.
Yeah, you are a great swimmer.
And for the record, I'm a great swimmer. Bronze medallion. I don't have my bronze medallion. I couldn't save anyone in a Shark Tank or any other sort of reality TV show based swimming. But the language we use is vitally important, because we start using that language with other people, and that's what we start using a language with ourselves. And like treating, nurturing that inner child that is so whether they're scared, angry, resisting love, rejecting love, needing love, all of these things. Like, we really have to parent our inner child, and that's and that's what a lot of this self-reflection comes down to, because strange things bubble up as you write more, as you reflect more, and they allow you to think on them. And you go, oh, that might have affected me more than I thought. And again, you're not like going hunting for trauma, but you're like, hey, like, why don't I do that anymore? Oh, because I don't do this. Oh, because I didn't make time for that. Because I told myself 10 years ago that I didn't like doing that, because the person I was doing that with, I didn't really like. Oh, I'm going to start rollerblading again. Don't do that.
There's so many bladers in London, man. I saw a blader on the subway, on the tube, and like get off escalators and blade around, and then like,
oh, blading's back, baby. It's back in a big way.
I don't know if it should be back. Not in such a populated city like London. Blade on your own time. You can blade in the park, but if you're blading to work, I don't know.
I say let them
You're right.
Let them be. Something I'm doing less judgment. As I do less judgment on myself, I'm judging other people less as well. And it's great because I'm not expending that judging energy on someone. Look at that guy's lame shirt. I'm like, that guy's made an interesting fashion choice.
You're right.
I don't care. It means nothing.
I mean, I'm also trying to be funny, which is hard because like sometimes to be funny is sometimes you do have to be kind of judgmental. But
you have to be aware of something that could be either good or bad, or know when to punch in the right.
But it's not funny to just be like, oh, look at that dickhead wearing rollerblades.
Yeah, because that's your own insecurities.
You can't wear rollerblades.
In some ways, yeah. Oh, man, I wish I could blade like that guy.
Maybe I should blade. I got to go into Shoreditch tonight. Maybe I should blade there.
I reckon you would have a good chance of being struck by a car. And
man, I'd get out and be like, man, blading's so free. This is so sick. Why didn't I do this early? Just get caned or slip.
And I'll tell you who doesn't judge, Jonathan, the grill of a Mercedes.
I was thinking the guy like at the tube. What happens if he just got pushed slightly and just started rolling onto the tracks?
He'd fucking grind them and jump off.
K-grind, bruh. Just like in front of the tube. Just
what is even a rollerblading grind? I swear there was like a. I think it's
called a K-grind.
No,
cross.
No, it's definitely not K-grind. A K-grind's skateboarding.
Yeah, but I think it's applicable to rollerblading too.
No, I think
any rollerblading aficionados out there.
There was some sort of a soul grind, I swear.
Soul grind.
I don't know. I just remember hearing that kind of terminology thrown around at the skate park by a guy with a weird little like
beard,
a little chin
goatee
beard
thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably,
stereotyping a lot of people right now.
But yeah, I mean the judgment thing is integral. Like you judge yourself less, you judge others less. That leads to happier life.
Also, the judging part of us is part of us for a reason. It's trying to help us. It's fear coming through as judgment that's trying to identify, for lack of a better expression, the edge of the cliff. Like it's like don't do that. That's risky. Don't fall off. And you kind of have to say thank you for looking out for me, but I'm not going to fall off. I'm okay. This is this is fine territory. Fear only knows how to stop you. You're never going to get further from fearing things.
Yeah.
It only knows how to say, are you sure? Are you sure? And the more you work with that and, cultivate some of your other personality traits and your other, I suppose, characters, and some of which had lain dormant for a long time, you like bring them to the front and be like, hey, what do you want to do? Playful kid that doesn't think about anything, I want to do this. This is amazing. And the judge is like, that's really lame, or you're gonna hurt yourself, or this is a waste of time. But, the more you cultivate some of those things, and there's a few characters in all of us, and they're all probably vary, but those things allow us to be more whole and allow us to be better humans so that we can interact with other people. Because when you're in a good spot, nothing can shake you, hey?
No.
But when you're in a bad spot, the most simple thing can shake you. I'm not going to let you in traffic.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that person hasn't even emailed me back.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, rather than like, oh, that person's having a busy day. Oh yeah, I'll let you in traffic.
It's so amazing, like how telling it is of a person's inner state, how they act outwardly. Like I saw someone having this argument with another person the other day, and I thought, that person must be so sad. Like how, or so angry, or hate themselves, or be like so poisonous.
And I saw two grandkids sitting with their grandparents at a bit of a shitty looking ice cream shop, and they all looked miserable. And maybe it had been a tough day. Maybe it had been, maybe the kids were staying with the grandparents because something was wrong with the parents, or there's more story, we don't know what they were looking like. But part of me thought, this looks like a bit of a chore. Kids don't really want to be there. Grandparents have said, let's just get the nearest ice cream. No one's done enough. No one's really loved the whole thing into action. And I was just like, that's kind of sad. They all look so unhappy. But if you said, is everything okay here? They would have been like, yeah, everything's great. But it's just this moment as I walked past, I was like, these people are literally eating the fucking happiest food in the world, hanging out with their grandkids, and like they all look miserable. I wonder what's going on for all of them that they can be so
down.
Yeah. And that was just kind of sad. It made me think like, when I'm down, there's a lot of stuff going on for me that I won't admit to. I've said to people before, they're like, hey, how's your day going? I'm like, terribly. And they've gone, wow, was not expecting that response. Now I'm not equipped to answer it. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And walked on. Like, I'm not.
It's always a shocker for the checkout chick when you say that kind of stuff.
But at the same time, you go like, well, okay, why do I feel terribly? And what's going on? And then you're like, oh, wait, I got up late today. And I'm angry at myself because I got up late, because now I don't have the time to do X. And I'm actually running quite late for that thing. And I'm tired because I stayed extra at this social gathering that I didn't really want to be at, or that I did really want to be at and I was having fun. But the friction, the struggle that we face is in the choosing. Again, you can choose. I think it was a podcast that was on Aubrey Marcus's podcast, the guy talking about choosing.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it was called, but he was saying food is a great example. You can either go, someone's like, what did you have for dinner last night? Or like, oh, how was the burger? And you're like, oh man, it was so good. Like, oh, so greasy. Like, oh, it was like, I'll have to go to the gym for 3 weeks to get rid of that. Or like everything. And instantly you'd made a judgment call on yourself for being a person that would eat something like that, and you're like, that's coming out in that response. So that's kind of how you feel.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, oh no, I chose to eat an amazing burger. It was delicious. And I enjoyed every fucking minute of it. And instantly the judgment isn't there because you've chosen to do something you haven't felt like you had your hand forced. But knowing that you're choosing something is being confident in your choices, and maybe you can eat that burger and eat that thing because you know you're going to exercise and you eat healthily otherwise.
Yeah, and you save yourself the guilt
And the
and the
struggle.
struggle.
Oh, I'm umming and erring, and I should get a salad from McDonald's. No, fucking just do it, man. Just whatever you want.
So the episode is Aubrey Marcus podcast 272. Why Don't I Change with Dr. Ross Ellenhorn. It's really good. It's a short one, but it's really, really good. He talks about like the narrative or essentially like the following your own story, and how like as humans we create stories to kind of live by and like live our lives by and guides by, and we play into those narratives. So like, you know, if I want to get fit, but I really also want a cheeseburger. Oh, but I shouldn't have one because I'm being bad. Oh no, it's okay to be bad. Like, just have one. Okay. Oh, now I feel guilty for it. So now I have to work out really hard. Oh, but then I'm tired and I'm really hungry. Oh God, I feel like a cheeseburger. Like that narrative just keeps going on. And instead of playing to that, if you just go, I feel like a cheeseburger, I'm going to eat it and not make myself feel bad and have no shame about it, and then just go and exercise. I know I'm going to exercise. It's not like I wasn't going to exercise and eat the cheeseburger and then I go, oh, now I have to exercise. You made a decision to go to the gym 4 times a week. That means you can eat a fucking burger guilt-free whenever you want.
Yeah.
So like we make ourselves feel so guilty for things and shamed about things. I mean, sex is a massive one. Everyone's got shame about sex. Like,
Yep.
oh, I shouldn't have liked that. I'm so bad. Or like, oh no, I can't think that that's something good. Or oh, they're gonna think I'm weird. Or so
Yeah.
but like food, what you want to do. Some people have shame about their jobs. I really want to do this, but I think people wouldn't accept if I fucking left being a financial advisor and started my own cafe.
We shit on so many financial advisors and accountants.
I
on
know,
this
and you know
podcast.
why? Because I don't know any financial advisors. I know you've got friends with.
They're all fucksters.
I know you're friends with a couple of them, but like,
For us, it's just not to stop the conversation, but for us, it's just an easy job to be like white collar job, generic white collar job,
and it's also, I mean, you and I are not like mathematically minded, so it's the kind of most opposite thing from where you and I sit.
For sure. But what you're saying is like, you know, these people, you know, they have shame about creative pursuits. Creativity is a big thing that people go like, that's something they use bad language with all the time. I can't draw, I can't sing, I do not know how to play the piano. I am shit at drawing. Everyone, if you asked 100 people on the streets and you said, can you draw me a picture? I reckon 90 of them would say, I can't draw, sorry.
I'm terrible at drawing.
I'm terrible. Oh, I haven't drawn since high school. No one, there is natural ability in everything. But if you practice at something a few times, you start to get good at it. And like you might find it's not about the quality of something. It might just be about doing the thing to escape, and like that's what fucking art is. At first.
Do you think it's possible to live? I mean, it's definitely possible to live without shame, but like, I think a lot of people
pretty difficult, man.
A lot of people don't live without shame. I wonder how many people, if you did that experiment out of 100, if anyone would go up and just try to draw something and be like, oh wow, that I really enjoyed that process, and that's what all their feedback was. It wasn't like a judgment of the drawing. It wasn't anything. It was like,
oh, that wasn't very good at all.
It was just like, oh wow, it was really nice to draw. I should draw more. Yeah, okay, I'm going to draw more. Hey, thanks for that experiment. Like,
Do you know what that sounds like, John? That sounds like a person who was on fucking mushrooms or weed when they got asked
Yeah,
to draw.
100%, right? 100%. Anytime you're under the influence of a substance, maybe not alcohol, but like, yeah, that weed or mushrooms or psychedelics, you're like, again, it engages that child, the child within you. Yeah, of course I'll try this. I don't know how to do that, but why not? Let's give it a go.
I think sometimes the people that think they live without shame as well are actually the most shameful or the most judgmental. You know, like you meet the most woke person at the party and they're like talking about all this kind of stuff. And it's really that they're putting up a big facade so that, you know, they're playing a character so that no one will see some of the things that they're ashamed with.
Yeah.
Or even the shame thing, like, oh, I make great fashion choices. I don't care what you think of me, blah, blah, blah. Really deep down that you're like trying to cover up for something else in some respects. And not always. And let's be honest, we're not psychologists, doctors, or even authors of books on the subject.
We're just two drum and bass producers, just having a chat. Oh yeah, by the way, people, we produce drum and bass. Head to our Spotify, Ekko and Sidetrack, YouTube, Deezer, Apple Music. Listen to our trap music.
All the things. No, but like I don't know. That's maybe a view that I've
No, but
seen.
it's true. I mean, that's where like kind of virtue signaling or signaling in any way. We're constantly putting out signals as humans to communicate with each other. I'm signaling to you by flirting with you that I would like to mate with you. I'm signaling to you by staring at you and kind of not smiling.
That you're trying to mate with my wife.
Is that I don't like you. Like we're constantly kind of putting out subconscious and conscious signals, controlling the narrative. We go to a party. Okay, out of this party, I want to sleep with this girl and I want this person to like me and I got to be like the fun person at the party. So, I mean, these aren't conscious thoughts. This is just subconscious. Like, so you're putting out all those signals. Like, I don't know, it'd be...
That's also a lot of hard work as well. And like, you know, to bring it back to what we were talking about before, all that is encompassing and consuming bandwidth.
Yeah.
That you're potentially not decluttering after a few days. If you don't purge your cache regularly.
Your mind cache.
Your mind
or
cache.
cache. Is it cache?
You can say you say potato, I say Nelly Furtado, Jonathan. It's if you don't purge that, it can get pretty fragmented and a bit confused, and you can start doing things that are pretty un-you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's important to come back to those things, like the things you value. The thing like, what am I? You know, when Matthew McConaughey said he would put the words "I value?" on a billboard, I was like, I don't think I've ever asked myself that question. If I had to write down what I value, I'd start writing some things down. But then, you know, a day later, I'd be like, actually, that's not a thing. That's me pretending I value that. I actually value this way more. And then I'm like, if we can change some of those things, then it, you know, lead to positivity.
I recently, in the last 2 weeks, the last 3 weeks, I got around to doing an exercise where I worked out my values. I think I talked to you about this. It's in a book called A Squiggly Career. This Squiggly Career by Sarah Ellis and Helen Tupper. Anyway, it's a book that Byron lent me. And he said, just look at this value chapter. And he did this in maybe November last year. And I just got around to doing it. But I did it. And it was really fascinating to do this exercise. And I since have sent it to 2 friends that And again, like, talk about the universe kind of showing you on a path or putting you down this direction. The week I did it, I then had went to a friend's house for drinks and kind of was having these very in-depth conversations and very serious conversations with another friend. And I instantly thought, like, you need to work out your values. You should do this exercise. I'm going to send you this exercise. And
I would like to do the
yeah,
exercise.
I'll send it to you as well. Like, and he did them and found them to be very helpful. We need to catch up for a beer and discuss them. And I just sent them to another friend yesterday. Like, it's amazing what it tells. And I found out that some of my values, I was kind of surprised. No, not really surprised, but like knowing that they're my values means that, okay, I'm going to go I'm going to go do anything. How many of my values does this tick off? Should I go do it or should I not go do it? Why am I doing this thing? Why am I meeting up with this person for a beer? Why am I buying a sacred gourd from here? Why am I investing in this?
But Potter is one of my.
But like, you know, does it fit the values? Am I going to look at that thing, or am I going to reflect on doing that, or am I going to think that was a waste of my time because I didn't value it? And working out your values and then seeing the value in the thing you're about to do means that you're going to cherish the thing much more. So I had breakfast with a friend on Friday, and I thought, before I went, what values is this doing for me? It's friendship, inspiration, creativity, and success and wealth, because it's helping me musically. And I went into the conversation. I went into hanging out. It was like, fuck yeah, this is so much more fulfilling because I know that this is hitting all the points, and I'm aware that this is hitting all the points that I need in my life.
It's like eating a delicious, nourishing meal rather than eating a literal piece of turf.
Before you go out for a meal that you know, say you're going to eat pasta. Imagine if before you went out to an Italian restaurant to eat like the best pasta, you spent 10 minutes reflecting on why you love pasta and what was the best pasta you had before this. To hype yourself up. You're like, oh man, this is why I love pasta. It's so filling and it's so creamy, and like I haven't eaten for a while, so this is like a treat. Oh, the best pasta I had was at this restaurant. That was such a fun night. Oh, I had this wine as well. Oh man, I'm super excited for tonight. I can't wait to fucking eat this pasta. And then you go and eat the pasta and you're like, this is fulfilling all the things that I love about eating pasta. Are you fucking serious? This is amazing. And then the experience is so much more valuable. Rather than just like, oh, I'm meeting my friends for fucking dinner in 2 hours, but I've got to finish work, or I've got to do this thing. It's, you know, it's again, it's back to like reflection, presence, values. Reflection, values, presence. What are your values? Reflect on your values and then be present in them.
Sounds like you got some things to stick on your wall.
I do. I actually recently stuck up a kind of tribal tapestry looking thing, which I'm quite happy with. But yeah, I'm going to stick some things on my wall. I think you said it to me, or it was said on a podcast again recently. Hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. Yep. I'm going to stick that motherfucker on my wall.
That's it's from, I think he's a power lifter, or he's definitely an exercise coach.
Yeah.
That I first heard about somewhere. Maybe on Tim Ferriss or Jocko Willink mentioned him or something like that. But yeah, I think that rings true, because it's that old adage, the obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way.
Inside the treasure you seek is in the cave that you fear.
I really need to read either The Obstacle is the Way or Stillness is the Key.
You should read them all. Ego is the Enemy is the other one. I haven't read either of the other two. I've only read Stillness is the Key, but I found that to be an incredible, insightful book from Ryan Holiday.
I also want to read the book that Matthew McConaughey references.
Oh yeah, the Salesman book. I want to read his book. I'm pretty keen to jump on and consume whatever he just wrote, the Green Lights or whatever.
Yeah.
He's a very charismatic guest, and like he tells a good story. And man, I loved that he said, people think I roll out of bed and just say, "Where's my mark?" I work hard, and I didn't know Matthew McConaughey was married with 3 kids. I didn't know like some of the stuff about him, and I loved hearing his story about turning from a rom-com guy into something else and like working that out and reassessing, unbranding himself, so to speak. And I think he had like, he's an incredibly introspective and insightful guy. And it's easy to think that guy's, he just got lucky, he's an actor, or that guy just is a great musician because he just got like super lucky. I've said it before, man. I've heard someone's song and I've been like, I bet they don't know how to really produce it. They got it written by someone else and everything like that. And you're like, no, that's like trying to discount their work because of who you believe they are. They might,
and in some way you think that that's going to make your work
better. Yeah.
And it doesn't.
That's like famine thinking. If I can't have it, no one can. It's like if this song's pretty good, but I won't show it to anyone until it's absolutely done, or because no one else is going to make it better. It's there's lots of things to dig into, John. It sounds like you're on a really important little voyage of self-discovery, and I think that's I think you've turned a bit of a corner.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think a corner was turned, and a realization was had that essentially I can't move forward in the current state I'm in.
No,
so something has to change.
Absolutely, and it's not. And I'll give you some advice that someone gave me. You are not broken in any sort of way. You're not enough. You're more than enough. Anything you do on yourself now, any work you do on yourself, is only making you more of enough. You're becoming a more voluminous version. But what you are right now is the perfect version of Jonathan.
Thank you.
That gold that you are is perfect right now. You're choosing now to do more work, to become a larger version of yourself. But if you chose not to do that work and you could just accept yourself, then you'd be perfect.
The acceptance of oneself is that's the key, isn't it? Acceptance.
I used to think some of that like Buddhist kind of, nothing matters, let everything go, that kind of stuff, the stuff that is taught concurrently in some meditation practices. I thought that was really scary. I was like, everything fucking matters. These people clearly don't know what matters. Letting go of everything, judgment, they're crazy. I like all the breathing and I like being calm, but they don't know. They've never wanted to get a fucking Beatport #1. Or
they don't know what matters. They're like, they don't know what matters to me. They've never been through what I'm going through.
Yeah. Also, they don't have a Spotify income to worry about, or shows fees to play, or anything, fans to get, any of these things that I think we used to think matter so much. But really, what is it about? It's about letting go of the expectations around some of those things and detaching your success to those things. And being like, nothing matters, and then as you go further down the line, getting quite rum dust on the whole thing, that like the only thing that matters is what we're doing right now. Because anything that happens in the future is, related to what's happening now, and anything that happened in the past can't really be proven that it even happened at all. It's only exists in our memories.
It's so difficult to live by that, though. I mean,
It's insanely difficult.
but when you do, I have moments. I do have moments where I'm like, like this morning, I sat out the side. I rolled myself a cigarette, and I had a cigarette and a cup of coffee after I'd done my meditation, after I did my yoga, after I did some washing, after I did all my stuff. It was just before this conversation. I sat in the backyard and just listened to the wind and looked at a tree in my backyard just kind of flow. And I just sat there, and it was there was nothing existing outside this, what I was currently experiencing. I wasn't thinking of the conversation we were going to have. I wasn't thinking about music or anything. I was just sitting there. And it was lovely. I was still. It was beautiful.
That is fucking beautiful. Great work. I hope you find some more moments to cultivate some of that stillness.
Thank you. I will.
It's really lovely to have this kind of a conversation with you, Jono. It really is. I love it as, as your buddy, as your friend, as your business partner and creative partner, but mostly I love it as my brother, because some of the harshness that you have in your head is directly correlated to some of the harshness that I have in my head, that I have beaten myself up and beaten you up as my younger brother. And so to have this conversation with you and to see you having these realizations, I think that's extremely, extremely important. And really, 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 maybe I've overused the term, but it's really beautiful. And I'm really excited to see where this leads you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me and offering advice and help along the way. Obviously, you're very much an inspiration for me, especially for all the work you've done on yourself this past few months. And it's nice to know that there's, we're both on a path that isn't too dissimilar, that we can help each other out.
And we're both destined for great things. And I think so many people out there are destined for great things, but they can get in their own way. They'll stumble on so many other things, and they'll self-sabotage, and they'll do all sorts of stuff along the way because they don't think they deserve, because they're not worthy of the thing.
But you are worthy.
You are worthy. You're beautiful. You're amazing. And if you need to hear this and you've gotten all the way to the end of this podcast, say to yourself, say it out loud. Say, you are enough.
You are enough. I am enough. I am enough.
I'm doing great fucking work.
I am doing great fucking work. And I love you, Jonathan Hansen, as in me.
Yeah, say it. I love you, Jeff.
I love you, Jono.
Yeah. I love you, man.
I love you too, buddy. I really do, and I love the fact we can have these conversations. I think it's really, I love the fact that we have this relationship as brothers. There are a lot of brothers out there that don't have this kind of relationship, and the older we get and the more people we speak to about it, it just shows how rare it is. So I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too, friend. All right. That's the end of the podcast. Wow, I didn't think we'd go there. We did really well.
We did very well.
See you, buddy.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.